Yeah, before we run out of time, let's just go ahead and go to Elizabeth.
Do you want to start or shall I?
Well, I'll just kind of say what the type I think she is, and then I'll let you move on to that. So in September, I had said, I've only seen the first season, and that was a long time ago, and my gut feeling is that she's a 9. And then yesterday when I messaged you, I was like, it's between a 9 and a 5. And I gave some reasons why, but I think when you start repertising her, did you write your blog already for her?
No, I did not get it written, but I've got a lot of thoughts. Yeah, I just didn't have time.
Yeah. So listeners, there's a blog coming out that might be really, really interesting. But I think, once I hear some of your thoughts, it might.
So why do you think she's a 9?
There were different things. Like, she's very steady. She's very steadfast. She's very predictable. She is a peacekeeper, not necessarily a peacemaker. Just kind of goes along with what is supposed to happen, like goes along with the flow or what people expect of her. And 9s tend to be people pleasers. I mean, it's a little bit different because of her royal duties, but she definitely likes comfort and routine. And she was willing to overlook Philip's activities. And it never really, you don't really see her angry very often, but when she is angry, she's still composed, even when she is angry. The angriest I saw her was when she told Charles that if he wants to be king, he needs to start acting like one. And it's a righteous anger. So when 9s get angry, it is very much justified, and it's been pushed and pushed and pushed until there's an explosion. So I describe 9's anger as a pressure cooker, that it builds up, it builds up, it builds up until it explodes, and then there's release, and then she can go right back to being, changing her affect to that more neutral, pleasing. And type 9s are the withdrawn type. But each of the withdrawn types, they withdraw differently. And type 9s tend to withdraw emotionally, which is what she's known for. She's known for being so emotionally neutral.
Yes.
And then some of the things that, like Prince Charles said, because my husband's a 9, I said, I love that quote. Can I say it to you sometimes? And of course he agreed because he's a type 9. But, it was when they were talking about favorite children, and she's like, I don't have a favorite. And he says, you clearly have a favorite. And she's like, well, who is it? And the quote was, your lack of self-knowledge is breathtaking, which is not quite an insult, but it's not quite a compliment either, right? And so I was like, I am adopting that from now on. And so what did she do? She went to go see, who was her favorite. And spoiler alert, it ends up being Andrew. And I do believe Andrew's a 3. And that would be why he accidentally was her favorite, because 9s will gravitate toward 3s because that's their security. That's their security number on the Enneagram.
Interesting.
And probably why she and Margaret get along well too, if Margaret is a 3. And also how she can get along with all of the prime ministers.
Oh, why is that?
Because 9s are they're the mergers. Like, they can basically use their energy to make other people comfortable. That's kind of their superpower. They're energy chameleons. They can match energy. So if you've got someone that's like a higher energy, they'll match that energy and bring it to neutral. They'll attempt to. That's what they're trying to do. They match the energy if it's a low energy, and then they bring it to neutral. If it's a high energy, they take it and they bring it to neutral.
Interesting.
That's why they're called the peacemakers. Because when done in a healthy way, that's basically what it is.
Well, as we're conversing, we're popping some symptoms into my repertory, and I kind of thought about her as sort of a rule follower, right?
Mm-hmm.
That she follows the rules, and she doesn't defy them ever. You probably haven't seen it.
It's okay.
But this boat, this ship,
Oh yeah, I'm there.
she wants to repair it or she wants a new one or something, and it's really important to her. I mean, it's the one time you really get this glimpse of her that something seems really important as opposed to it just being the way it has to be. So that was kind of interesting.
And that actual scene, Carrie and I actually my husband and I talked about that this morning at breakfast. He said, "Oh, that was totally 9. Like that was spot on." Where she said, "All these sacrifices that I make, and I go along with, what everybody asks of me, so that the one time that I make a request, because she doesn't do it often, the one time I make a request, I expect it to happen."
Yeah.
And I wouldn't at first glance have said, yeah, that's type 9. But when he said, "Oh, yes, I relate to that," and we talked about it a little bit, it was kind of the pressure cooker analogy. She didn't actually blow up, but for a type 9, that is kind of a blow up. Like, I expect this to, to be like this, kind of like how she blew up with Charles too. Like, I expect you to be a king, like start acting like a king. And a lot of it is because, I don't know if this is type 9 or just human nature. Like, those expectations were placed on her and she did them. Even she still attempted to get out of it, by sending Margaret in there with the big guys. Like, "I'll do it. Like, let me do it. She's like, "Okay, go try." So it's not like she's completely dutiful like a type 6 would be, like, wouldn't even question it. Like, "Okay, yeah, this is what I'm supposed to do, and I'm going to go do it." But she still attempted to be comfortable and not have to do it if she didn't have to. And the other thing for a type 9, I think we're sticking with 9 and not 5 anymore. But the other thing about a type 9 is that there's a lot of faith, and she has a lot of faith. And it doesn't necessarily mean, like, for type 9s who are not religious, it doesn't necessarily need to be religion, but just a lot of faith that things are going to work out. Like a belief that, if I stand firm and don't move, like be steady and steadfast, then things are going to work out. So they're the ones that's like, "It'll be okay. It'll all work out. It all comes out in the wash." That's kind of a type 9 attitude. She's just doing it in a royal way, where she's just kind of like, was it with Margaret Thatcher? There was one prime minister that she was approached like, "Doesn't this bother you?" And it's like, "Oh, well, if you've been sovereign as long as I have, you've seen these kinds of things work themselves out." Yeah, I think
that's right.
Still with 9.
Yeah, her emotions were definitely suppressed. She was definitely kind of a rigid person, So the first remedy I thought about for her, and I'm still not convinced that it is correct, is Kelly Carb. And Kelly Carb is, all the Kellys are rule followers. They like rules and they follow them. Except Costigan, which is also a Kelly, and they're more of a rebel and they'll break the rules. But they're very compassionate. They're compassionate. They're the tree huggers. What?
I identify with Costigan. I remember reading that in my homeopathy personality.
Oh.
I don't know if I ever felt like it was mine, but I was like, ooh, yes. I think it might have been like a moment, but not necessarily me.
Yeah. Well, I mean, they're very active in their compassion. They will go out and protest, and there was a Minnesota Senator Paul Wellstone he was definitely a typical Costigan.
Yeah, I imagine a Costigan is a 6 or an 8, which are my wings, which is probably why I really resonated with it. Not like 100% of the time of my life, but like just different pockets where either I operated in an 8 wing or a 6 wing. I was like, oh, definitely resonated with it.
So then I popped in some symptoms based on some of the things you were talking about. And a couple of interesting remedies came up. First of all, one of the remedies that comes up is the same one I picked for Harry, which is interesting. But he just dealt with it differently. You know, the queen never went out. So she never really had all the paparazzi stuff going on.
Mm-hmm.
You know, he went out and expected to be able to go out and be a person, and he couldn't,
Mm-hmm.
right? So that Boudelia remedy, the butterfly bush, came up. There's also boswellia, which I think is frankincense. And I don't know enough about it, but there's this very spiritual, I mean, it was one of the things brought to Jesus, right? So, you know, there's a very spiritual side to that. I don't feel that way about her. At least it wasn't portrayed that way. Maybe she was, and that's how she got through it all. But that's not what we saw. So I only have to go with, you know.
You mean you didn't see the spiritual side of her?
You know, I mean, she's the head of the church, but it seemed more like rules than spirit to me.
Okay, so the last episode that I saw, she told Philip, it's not about what you know, and it's not about what I know, it's what he knows. And she looked up, talking about God, and one of her rituals is she kneels by her bed every night and does.
That's right. You're right. She does
prays
pray
every night. Because I remember asking my husband, I said, do you think Charles does that? Like, do you think he prays for the country every night the way Elizabeth did? And he's like, I doubt it. I'm like, I doubt it too.
I doubt it too, as before. I would just be trying to get it right.
So, yeah, I can kind of see that from that point of view. And maybe it's not portrayed in the series because they wanted to keep it religiously neutral.
But the Callies are going to be, you know, because they're rule followers, they're going to be doing the praying.
Mm-hmm.
So they're going to pray
Mm-hmm.
because you're supposed to.
Right.
That's what you do when you're a Christian and you're at the church. You pray.
Mm-hmm.
So,
yeah. She definitely was a rule follower.
And then there's a remedy in here called Triticum vulgare. You know what that is?
Mm-mm.
It is wheat.
Oh.
Homeopathic wheat. And what makes it interesting to me is not only did it fit all of the symptoms, you know, like this sort of peacekeeper kind of thing about her, is that it is a remedy for people who like to get into costumes. They will kind of dress up in costumes. One time I had a family of 3 siblings, and they all needed it. They were all in theater.
Interesting.
And they were all really sensitive to wheat, which was kind of the tip off for me that this might be a possibility. One of them was especially sensitive. It was very interesting to learn that about them, that they had this acting thing. You know, one of them was a little more goth than the others, but that's still a costume, right? Yeah.
So what would her costume be?
Oh, well, I don't know. The crowns, all the dresses, the purses.
She didn't really care for all that stuff. I think it was more she was in her element when she was in her, you know, when she was
That's
stalking,
true.
when she was outside with the dogs and with the horses. That was her element. Comfort.
Yeah.
And that's more of a type 9 thing, is comfort.
Well, then that puts me back at Callie Carb again, because she wore those things because she was supposed to. Although they are not necessarily peacekeepers, but they would keep the rules. You know, I had brought up to you that I wondered if she needed a remedy since she lived to be such an old age. And then this morning, I'm like, well, she had a homeopath.
That is true. That is true.
Yeah, she's got Dr. Peter Fisher, who is not with us anymore, but he was her homeopath for decades. And I think he also worked with her mother.
Mm-hmm.
So,
who also lived long too.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
So the interesting thing about when you had said, I think you texted that to me, that she lived a really long life. Maybe she didn't need a remedy. I was like, oh, I wonder if that has to do with type 9ness, because type 9ness they're almost like a vessel for stress. Like they absorb the stress and then they release it. And so it's kind of like so if she was not as impacted by the stressors, that could add to the longevity of her life.
That's really interesting, because you remember I said Boudelia showed up, which is the remedy I recommended for Erie. They are also a vessel for stress, but they can't let it go.
But can't let it go.
Can't let it go. it's a remedy for that you could kind of give intercurrently for someone who just has had so much dumped on them time after time after time. And they just need to recover.
Mm.
Like,
I wonder if that's what
can I ever catch a break?
Yeah. That's type 4 energy. That's type 7 energy. Type 7 energy would be like, especially a 7 in stress, would definitely be, oh my gosh, can just something go my way for once? Yeah. Yeah. And 7s are really sensitive to that. And so that's why a lot of times 7s look immature and childish, because the threshold of can things just go my way is very, not very high. Like the tolerance is not very high. And so it's like, oh my gosh. I call it disappointment, like the type 7's disappointment. But the superpower of the type 7 is that they can reframe it and get over it. But when it gets dumped on, like when there's a lot at once, it's really hard for us. Or if it's something that can't be reframed, like a diagnosis or just something that's just sad and hurtful and there's no way to spin it, that will show up as a disappointment. So if it's something that's really heavy like that, or just a lot one after the other, where they get kind of backed up in the queue of processing, especially if it's very emotional. But type 7s get disappointed every day because of that low tolerance of why didn't this go my way?
So do you think Harry is the 7?